Okay, have you guys seen the audience hall at the Vatican, in Vatican City? This is the audience hall, and what people have done on the internet, you can go look this stuff up. Just put Vatican head of the snake in your search feature, and you will be able to see that the interior and exterior of the Vatican audience hall is shaped as the head of the snake. So it has fangs, but they just did a comparative analysis of the shape of the head of a snake. And this is just a green boa constrictor, I think, but and the eye placement is right in the middle of the head. It actually has nose slits, and then it has fangs, and these windows actually have slits. But I'm going to go get another photo for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the exterior of the audience hall. The roofing tiles, or whatever structure they use to put as the roof, even has snake-like feature. It's got scales basically emulated in the textural layering of the substrate that they used. And the eye, once again, is in the middle. It's in the center of the head, just slightly off center, but it's just like a snake. It's in the center of the head. Okay, here's a close-up version of what it looks like on the inside. So here it has, and maybe that's the sun coming through, but maybe not, because on a cloudy day or at nighttime, you're going to need lights. This is insane. Okay, so there's the fangs in the front, and we're going to take a look at the actual throne, which is demonic looking, in a minute. But as you can see, they used a lot of tiling to emulate scales. That's what all of this is. And so the eyes, it has detail in the stained glass that is like the slit of the snake. And I'm going to go get a photo of that for you. Okay, and here we have one of the windows. And as you can see, I'm not sure why they added all this other detail, I guess just to kind of give it some ornateness, to kind of hide the fact that it's a slit and it's elongated like an eye. Yeah, that's hiding in plain sight for most people. And I suppose that the people who attend this Catholic church, maybe they're reptilian too. Okay, so here we have the throne. Now, this is a mirrored image of the throne because people were saying, look at what it actually is. It's an alien head. It's kind of got bug eyes, like a manted being. But then look at how it turns into the head of a goat. You see this? Or the devil, what they would call the devil. It's got two horns coming out to the side. There's these eye sockets. It looks like a skull because you know how the cow skulls or horse skulls look when, they don't have the flesh on them. There's like this bony part that comes out, and then you have the muzzle that has the teeth and everything. But this looks like a skull here. And then you have this sort of alien looking head, which is supposed to represent Jesus. And I'll show you what the throne looks like when it's not mirrored. Let me get that photo. Okay, so here we have what the throne actually looks like when it's not being mirrored. And honestly, as a cultist, these people are cultists. So they're always doing things. And your mind, your subconscious mind, will also complete a lot of what's missing here. There's somewhat of an emulation on this side, mirroring what this side is. And there's not a whole lot on the other side with this kind of wing thing. But this is supposed to be Jesus. And it really, like, the whole thing looks like souls, but they look almost like demonic souls or lost souls or something. I mean, look at the size of this thing, the enormity that it is. How in the world did someone make this? And especially in some sort of record time. I'm not sure if I guess it's made of wood, but it was supposedly a sculptor made this thing. He was shown with a small model of what he was going to do. And then look at this. I mean, look at how tall a man is. Okay. Let's say this guy is, close to 6 feet tall. And then let's double that. And then let's triple that. So this thing is like, 18 to 20 feet tall at its highest points. And this Jesus, let me get the close up of this, because this doesn't look like Jesus. And how could someone twist their head like that? Watch this. Okay, so this is a closer image of what that Jesus character looks like. Look at this neck. I don't know. Look at his fingers. Has he only got 4 fingers? No, I guess he's got 5. This one just looks weird. Unless, yeah, I don't know. It's a bit odd. I found another image. Here's another one. This is supposed to be representing Jesus. Honestly, it doesn't quite fit the image I think that most people would have of Jesus. I mean, it almost looks like his head is hovering over his body because his neck is so long, it makes no sense. Okay, here is an image of Pope Benedict. Now, obviously somebody doctored this one up with Photoshop or something. But it was kind of accurate because they actually removed this Pope from his position. Now let's get a closer look. Look at this guy. I mean, it's pretty accurate. But what I want to focus on is, look, who's this guy over here on the left? And actually, this person here, they have horns. But this person on the left has horns. The person on the right has horns. Looks like feminine. Person on the left has horns. What is this saying? Who wears horns on their head? Well, Jordan Maxwell pointed out that Moses had horns. Not sure what it meant, but the statue of Moses that has been seen before, Moses has horns. But again, was this guy transitioning into a demon that he truly was back when they removed him from his position? It could have been. But I believe this is all Photoshop because obviously he's got red eyes and stuff. This looks like a Photoshop mock-up thing. But if it's a Photoshop mock-up, they did a pretty good job revealing that he's just turning into a demon. Again, an image of Pope Benedict. This guy was creepy, very. Okay, now this is also an article. I came across this information too. I think things come across our vision for a reason. And obviously I needed to know about this whole reptilian thing. So here we have an article, and this article was put out on January 22nd, 2014, but the original newspaper article came out in the 1930s in regards to an underground reptilian city beneath LA. It's the underground catacombs of LA's lizard people. And so it goes on. This is a map that was made by a man. He was sort of a prospector. He was looking for gold or oil or something around in the LA area. And he created a device that he could get some readings through the ground, I guess. And apparently, I'm sure he found a shaft to go into, because this is a lot of detail to just go around on top of the ground and try to find all these tunnels. So they didn't really talk about that because I don't think they want people going down there looking for this. So here we go. Warren Schufelt in 1933. This is the underground tunnels of the lizard people. And apparently There had to have been some sort of artifacts or something that would indicate that this was lizard people, you know? I mean, where do you come up with this stuff? Just call it lizard. It could have just been anything, but no, they labeled it lizard underground city. Okay, one of the more colorful urban legends of LA, this is not an urban legend, this actually happened because it came out in the newspaper, is that of the lizard people, an advanced race of humans who created an underground city here some 5,000 years ago. I'm sure it was probably more than 5,000 years ago. According to the story, incalculable riches and gold tablets with origins of human civilization carved into them were just waiting to be discovered by some savvy treasure hunter. This super race, allegedly related to the Mayans, had purportedly fled a catastrophic meteor shower and created several such communities along the Pacific coast, including the one in our dear basin. Now, again, a concocted story, because if there's a meteor shower and you're underground, why would you care? You know, why would you care? So this is all a bunch of fluff that they've added. And not to mention the fact that they don't even tell you what happened to all the gold and riches and all this stuff, right? I mean, because they did find some stuff and they didn't tell anyone what they did with it. Okay, here we go. The so-called lizard people were so intellectually and technologically advanced that they used mysterious chemicals to dig a network of some 285 tunnels, fully equipped with vast chambers large enough to accommodate 1,000 families who lived off a store of food and water placed there by the tribe. Apparently, if they have this much detail and knowledge about, you know, what went on there, they found some significant stuff. This story, loosely drawn from a Hopi Indian myth by a tribesman called Chief Greenleaf. Now, how does it come from a story when this guy went, you know, this prospecting guy found this stuff? Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Okay, this story, loosely drawn from a Hopi Indian myth by a tribesman called Chief Greenleaf, was told to a geophysicist and mining engineer named George Warren Shufelt in 1933. As it turned out, Shufelt had invented what he called a radio X-ray machine, which he believed could detect underground tunnels. And to that, the promise of an ancient sheepskin map held by two other treasure seekers, and you have a tale that went viral by 1933 standards. Schufelt's quest for the lizard people's golden treasures was picked up and followed closely by the Los Angeles Times, and in turn the Associated Press, which spread Schufelt's search for the lost catacombs and their inhabitants all across America. The entire underground city, appropriately shaped like a lizard, reached from Elysian Park, the lizard's head, to today's Central Library, the tip of the tail. Shufelt swore up and down he had discovered the exact locations of 1,900 square feet of tunnels, rooms with 9,000 feet floor space, and 16 places where gold was stored, all by using his radio X-ray machine. He created this map of the passages below the surface of Fort Moore Hill. After getting permission from the County Board of Supervisors, he began to dig up on North Hill Street, overlooking Sunset Spring and North Broadway. That was watched like an engineering soap opera by folks in the grip of the Depression. The wildly speculative newspaper reports insisted that the buried treasure was Spanish gold planted on the colonial period, and that the crew felt they were ready to bring it out after 28 feet of shaft was sunk. The deal was made by Shufelt and his small team of associates. Was a 50-50 split with the county, but the dig was plagued by challenges, dense boulders and plenty of mud after the shafts passed the water table. Some experts claimed the dig must reach 1,000 feet, and while Shufelt did accomplish 250 feet, he found no gold or tunnels. When winter turned into spring, the digging stopped and the money dried up and the newspaper stories vanished, along with the X-ray machine, the radio X-ray machine that he invented. G. Warren, as he was called in the days of the Great Lizard City Quest, stayed around Los Angeles and finally passed on in North Hollywood in November of 1957, leaving behind a great story and this memorable map. Now, they're trying to downplay this story, but that is not the exact story that came out of the newspaper. So what I'm going to do is go get the actual story. Okay, so this is a copy of the actual newspaper article that can be found online in regards to the reptilian city. Now, let's go look at this. And here's the date, 1934, January 29, 1934, in Los Angeles Times. It actually came out. Lizard People's Catacomb City hunted. Engineer sinks a shaft under the Fort Moore Hill to find a maze of tunnels and priceless treasures of legendary inhabitants. Okay, let's zoom in, see if we can get it a little bit bigger here. Busy Los Angeles, although little realizing it in the hustle and bustle of modern existence, stands above a lost city of catacombs filled with incalculable treasure and imperishable records of a race of humans further advanced intellectually and scientifically than even the highest type of present-day peoples, in the belief of G. Warren Shufelt, geophysical mining engineer, now engaged in an attempt to wrest from the lost city deep in the earth below Fort Moore Hill the secrets of the lizard people of legendary fame in the medicine lodges of the American Indian. So firmly does Shufelt and little staff of assistants believe that a maze of catacombs and priceless golden tablets are to be found beneath downtown Los Angeles that the engineer and his aides have already driven a shaft 250 feet into the ground, the mouth of the shaft being on the old Banning property of North Hill Street, overlooking Sunset Boulevard, Spring Street, and North Broadway. And so convinced is the engineer of the infallibility of a radio X-ray perfected by him for detecting the presence of minerals and tunnels below the surface of the ground, an apparatus with which he says he has traced a pattern of catacombs and vaults forming the lost city, that he plans to continue sending his shaft downward until he has reached a depth of 1,000 feet before discontinuing operations. Legend supplies clue. It's interesting. They spelled clue C-L-E-W instead of C-L-U-E. Interesting. A legend supplies a clue. Shufelt learned of the legend of the lizard people after his radio X-ray had led him hither and yon over an area extending from the public library on West 5th Street to the Southwest Museum on Museum Drive at the foot of Mount Washington. I knew I was over a pattern of tunnels, the engineer explained yesterday, and I had mapped out the course of the tunnels, the position of large rooms scattered along the tunnel route, as well as the position of deposits of gold, but I couldn't understand the meaning of it. Then Shufelt was taken to Little Chief Greenleaf of the Medicine Lodge of the Hopi Indians in Arizona, whose English name is El Mackin. The Indian provided the engineer with a legend, which, according to both men, dovetails exactly with what Shufelt says he has found. Fire destroys all. According to the legend, as imparted to Shufelt by Magdalene, the radio X-ray has revealed the location of one of the 3 lost cities on the Pacific coast, the local one having been dug by the lizard people after the great catastrophe which occurred about 5,000 years ago. This legendary catastrophe was in the form of a huge tongue of fire, which came out of the southwest, destroying all life in its path. Very interesting, huh? Now it says it's continued on page 5, column 2. Part 2, here we go. Did strange people live under the site of Los Angeles 5,000 years ago? An amazing labyrinth of underground passages and caverns hundreds of feet below the surface of Fort Moore Hill is revealed in maps, all rights to which have been reserved, prepared by G. Warren Shufelt, local mining engineer, who explains his topographical endeavors as being based on results obtained from a radio X-ray perfected by him. In this elaborate system of tunnels and rooms, according to a legend furnished Shufelt by an Indian authority, a tribe of human beings called the lizard people lived 5,000 years ago. The network of tunnels formed what Indians call the Lost Lizard City, according to Shufelt and the legend. Gold tablets on which are written the origin of the human race and other priceless documents are to be found in the tunnels according to the legend. Schufelt declares his radio X-ray has located the gold. The engineer has dug a shaft 250 feet deep on North Hill Street, overlooking the North Broadway, Sunset, and Spring Streets, and intends to dig to 1,000 feet in an effort to strike the lost city. Upper right-hand corner inset is time staff artist Ewing's conception of the lizard people at work. Lower left upper inset shows Schufelt and crew at the top of the shaft, bailing water out of their deep excavation. Lower left inset shows Schufelt operating his radio X-ray device. Okay, so here they are. Reptilian beings. This is just an artist's rendition of what it might have looked like back then. Now, I really don't get how this map looks like a reptile. So that in itself, how they're claiming that, you know, the design, the layout of the tunnels made it look like a reptile, I think that's a lie. I think they really went in this thing. Because obviously, if they found anything like this, that means that they would go in and they would find that there's gold and whatnot in there. Okay, so here it continues down here. No, okay, so this is the part that actually continues from the first page. Here we go. Continuing from the first page. The path being several hundred miles wide, the city underground was dug as a means of escaping future fires. The lost city, dug with powerful chemicals by the lizard people instead of pick and shovel, was drained into the ocean where its tunnels began, according to the legend. The tide passing daily in and out of the lower tunnel portals and forcing air into the upper tunnels provided ventilation and cleansed and sanitized the lower tunnels, the legend states. Large rooms in the domes of the hills above the city of labyrinths housed 1,000 families in the manner of tall buildings, and imperishable food supplies of the herb variety were stored in the catacombs to provide sustenance for the lizard folk for great lengths of time as the next fire swept over the earth. City laid out like a lizard. It doesn't look like a lizard to me, y'all. Anyway, the legend has it regarded the lizard as the symbol of long life. Their city is laid out like a lizard, according to the legend. Its tail to the southwest, far below 5th and Hope Streets. Its head to the northeast at Lookout and Marta Streets. The city's key room is situated directly under the South Broadway, near 2nd Street, according to Schufelt and the legend. This key room is the directory to all parts of the city and all record tablets, the legend states. All records were kept on gold tablets, 4 feet long and 14 inches wide. Now, if you have this much detail, how is this part of a legend? See, again, I was like, they're telling you, but they want you to think, oh, this is a myth. 4 feet long and 14 inches wide. On these tablets of gold, gold having been the symbol of life to the legendary lizard people, will be found the recorded history of the Mayans. And on one particular tablet, the southwest corner of which will be missing, is to be found the record of the origin of the human race. I mean, look at the details they give you. And then they're like, oh, yeah, no, this is just a legend. This is just what the legend said. So stupid. Okay, tablets are photographed here. Schufelt stated that he has taken X-ray pictures of 37 of such tablets, 3 of which have their southwest corners cut off. My radio X-ray pictures of tunnels and rooms, which are surface voids, and gold pictures with perfect corners, sides, and ends, are scientific proof of their existence, Schufelt said. However, the legendary story must remain speculative until unearthed by excavation. The lizard people, according to Macklin, were of a much higher type intellectually than modern human beings. The intellectual accomplishment of their 9-year-old children were the equivalent of those of present day college graduates, he said. So greatly advanced scientifically were these people that in addition to perfecting a chemical solution by which they bored underground without moving earth and rock, they also developed a cement far stronger and better than any in use in modern times, with which they lined their tunnels and rooms. Hills enclosed the city. Macklin said legendary advice to American Indians was to seek the lost city in an area within a chain of hills forming the frog of a horse's hoof. The contour of hills surrounding this region forms such a design, substantiating Schufeldt's findings, he said. The frogs of a horse's foot is basically just like it's like a point. It's kind of like a triangle. Okay, Schufeldt's radio device consists Schufeldt's radio device consists chiefly of a cylindrical glass case inside which a plummet attached to a copper wire held by the engineer, always continually pointing, he asserts, towards minerals or tunnels below the surface of the ground, and then revolves when over the mineral, or swings in prolongation of the tunnel when above the excavation. He has used the instrument extensively in mining fields, he said. Signals opposed. Installation of traffic signals at the intersection of 3rd Street and Larchmont Avenue is not warranted, according to a report from deputy police. Okay, that's so weird. Why? I mean, it just ended just like that. That was it. It just, it abruptly turned into a different story. Okay, so here's the guy. Here's his device. Looks like a very simple device, y'all. Let's find this technology. This is very simplistic technology. Why can't we make things like that today? Why can't we need things that'll look underground for us? And this guy had this very simple device that's not, highly technologically advanced, it looks like. But yeah, this is it. And I mean, look at the shape of this thing. Does that look like a lizard to you? It looks like a bunch of catacombs. I mean, really, look at it. Where's the body? They're like, oh, this is a lizard, but it looks like a defunct lizard, It doesn't even resemble a lizard. They went in here. They had to. And I'm sure that they didn't want any of that stuff revealed. So, but here's the map. If anybody's in California, you guys can go out there and just start seeing. I'm sure they've made all kinds of high rises and stuff on this land so that you can't go digging and exploring. But the only way to get there, the sewers. Go down in the sewer and find out. Yeah, there's just more evidence, y'all. Okay, and now I want to go into what the Emerald Tablets have to say about these other beings that have the potential to walk amongst us unnoticed. Now, this is from another video that I came across looking for some of the description for Emerald Tablets, and I'll get into the writings in a minute. But the narrator of this video is describing what Doriel was able to do, that he was taken by some beings who are higher, obviously. He called them Atlantean beings. He was taken into what we would know as Hollow Earth and was allowed to translate these Emerald Tablets into English and possibly other languages. But the Emerald Tablets were found supposedly in the Temple of the Sun, and he was able to translate them so that we would know what they say. And it says that in a weird way, like in a bizarre way, it is described that in this world come beings from the underworld attracted by blood, which means that when you spill the blood, you cite the rites and you perform a ritual, and these beings can be summoned from their abode, which I'm going to get into that in a little bit of what I think their abode might be. So we know about the different sacrifices. So they take a human body and they live among us. And so once they get a firm hold of our world and they've infiltrated pretty much every part of our society, they then want us to submit fully to their control and their rule. And they want to dominate over us and rule over us. So Maurice is Doriel. His name is Maurice Doriel. And he was contacted by these ascended masters. He called them like Atlanteans too. So I believe that this is a thing because apparently the history of the Emerald Tablets is that they can't even take a sample of these things. Where are the tablets now? That is left to be decided upon. They were supposed to be, in one story, they were supposed to have been returned to the Great Pyramid, but where would they be placed inside the Great Pyramid? If they were, I don't know, because the Vatican has held a lot of our history from us. Okay, so the next part of this video is just in regards to the actual writing. I speak of the ancient Atlantis. I speak of the days of the kingdom of shadows. I speak of the coming children of the shadows. They came out of the great depths, called by the wisdom of the men on the earth with the purpose of getting great power. In the remote past, before Atlantis existed, the men of those times were the ones who delved in the darkness, using dark magic, calling beings from the great depth below us. Then they entered this cycle. They were amorphous of another vibration, and they existed hidden for the children of the men of earth. Only with blood could they form a being. Only through man could they live in the world. In past ages, they were defeated by the masters, pushed down to the place from which they had come, but some stayed hidden in spaces and planes unknown by man. They lived in Atlantis as shadows, but sometimes they appeared among men. In the form of a man, they moved among us, but not for the eyes. They were like men, with a snake's head when the appearance dissipated, but they appeared to men as men among men. They entered the councils, taking forms that were similar to those of men, giving death to the heads of the kingdoms, taking their form and ruling their men. Only by magic could they be discovered. Only by sound could their faces be seen. Wanted by the kingdom of shadows to destroy man and rule in his place. The masters were powerful magicians capable of lifting the veil of the snake's face, capable of sending it back to its place. They went to the man and taught him the secret, the word that only a man can pronounce. Then they quickly lifted the veil of the serpent and threw it out of place among men. But beware, the snake still lives in its open place. Sometimes to the world, hidden walk among you in places where the rites have been taken place. Again, as time passes, they will take on the appearance of men. Called they may be by the teacher who knows whites and blacks. That's black and white magic. But only the white master can control and bind them in life. Do not seek the kingdom of shadows, for evil will appear, since only the master of light will conquer the shadow of fear. May you know, my brother, that this fear is a great obstacle. Be the master of all in the brightness. The shadow will soon disappear. Listen to my wisdom. The voice of the light is clear. Look for the valley of the shadow, and only the light will appear. Whatever the origin of its information, it tells the story of the manipulation of the reptilians and how they do it. Kings and queens, political leaders, bankers, and businessmen. The main owners of the media and those who lead the army are these serpent-headed beings that hide behind human appearance. They are the reptilian hybrids that, since they have a human aspect despite coming different origins, have managed to trick humanity. Actually, they are the same reptilian tribe. The Emerald Tablets narrate that the reptilians from the shadow realm try to destroy man and rule in their place. The kingdom of shadows, the hidden spaces and planes unknown to man, are the interspatial planes, a fraction that is beyond the visible spectrum of the human being. The phrase, only by sound their faces could be seen, refers to the fact that a certain frequency of sound destroys the energy projected by the human holograms, and then what is behind can be decoded, the reptilian form. Interestingly, the tablets say that in former times they were defeated by the masters, pushed down to where they had come from, a phrase that resembles a biblical passage from the Apocalypse where the dragon is written in reptilian terms. And the dragon was despondent, the old serpent, the so-called devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was struck down on earth and his angels were slain with him. And he bound the dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and imprisoned him for thousands of years and threw him into the abyss. and closed it and sealed it over him so that he will never deceive the nations again. The Emerald Tables also identify why Satanism and reptilian hybrids are so closely related. Then they entered this cycle. They were amorphous of another vibration, and they existed hidden for the children of men of the earth. Only with blood could they form a being. Only through man could they live in the world. These passages explain that reptilians reside in a range of frequencies outside the visible spectrum of the human being, and that to manipulate this reality, they must have a body with which to do it. Only through man could they live in the world. The phrase only with blood could form a being explains why the reptilian hybrids that occupy positions of power at present are obsessed with the rituals of human sacrifice and blood ingestion, just as they have been since they arrived centuries ago. According to our version of time, they drink the blood of human beings because it is the vibrational sustenance of the energy field of their human hologram, their veil. The lineages of the Watchers or fallen angels are what have been behind all wars and dictatorships of all kinds throughout the history to this day. Again, I'm going to stop right there just to say and mention about the Watchers and the other video that I put out in regards to my personal friend who is from Russia and had another friend in Russia who had talked about a newspaper article that he had read where these scientists had gone into the mountains of Russia and found a cave there where they wanted to explore it. And they got to a part where they could not go through. They could not pass by because there was an invisible barrier, sort of like a force field. One of their party was able to pass. And when he went to the end of the cave, it opened up into a chamber where there stood a man in the middle of these huge stone boxes. There were like 6 stone boxes, and the man was standing in the middle. And he spoke telepathically to the human that had just walked in the room. And this man was of a high stature, like he was very, very tall. And he spoke and told the man, when the man asked him who he was, that he told him that they were the Watchers and they were there for when the world needed them. So we have to, again, be careful of where we get these stories from about the Watchers and Satan and all of this. I believe they're using the satanic powers, the powers of Saturn, to summon forth these principalities of darkness, because we see the Saturnalia everywhere, all around our world. And once you gain the eyes to see, which I will be putting out another video in regards to all the symbolism that is everywhere that refers to Saturn, I will put that video out so most people can start to grasp the knowledge themselves, and they can start recognizing it in the most obvious places. I mean, they put it out in your face everywhere. So it's interesting because they boast of the suffering and murder of their victims, and for them, like wars become like their mainstream thing. That's the ritual of sacrifice on a large scale. And when I listened to a lot of Jordan Maxwell's videos, he also stated that the military are used for human sacrifice, and that the badges of honor that they receive are actually different badges from different gods. And the energy, the frequencies that are there when the person dies, that energy and frequency goes as a sacrifice towards the god that the badge represents. And badges are sigils. Again, guys, you know, symbols are very, very, very important. Very more important than you will ever know. We are not supposed to be vocalizing words with our mouths. We were downgraded from our telepathic abilities, where we could just do thought transference and not have to use our frequency, which is the voice box that we have. We are casting spells whenever we speak. That's why it's called spelling. And, you know, maybe in the not too distant future, hopefully within 100 years or so, we will have the capability to just do thought transference again, to get us away from casting spells at each other all the time. Okay, so let's just keep going. Pretty much torturing people, the torture of humans, and, you know, the things that they do to get the adrenochrome and all this. People, that's not human. It is absolutely not human to do these things. And I'm just going to go ahead and change to the reading of the Emerald Tablets, the actual reading, so that you guys can see. Okay, so this is actually an excerpt from the actual Emerald Tablets. I do have this book. It is not with me right at the moment, but I'm just going to read this. I pulled this up so I could read the actual excerpt for you. Okay, so far in the past, before Atlantis existed, men there were who delved into darkness, using dark magic, calling up beings from the great deep below us. Forth they came into the cycle, formless were they of another vibration, existing unseen by the children of earthmen. Only through blood could they have formed being, only through man could they live in the world. In ages past were they conquered by masters, driven down to the place whence they came. But some there were who remained, hidden in spaces and plains unknown to man. Lived they in Atlantis as shadows, but at times they appeared among men. Aye, when the blood was offered, forth they came to dwell among men. In the form of man, they amongst us, but only to sight were they as men. Spelling is not correct because this isn't what the book says. But only to sight were they as men, serpent-headed when the glamour was lifted, but appearing to man as men among men. Crept they into councils, taking form that were like unto men, slaying by their arts the chiefs of the kingdoms, taking their form and ruling over man. Only by magic could they be discovered, only by sound could their faces be seen. Sought they from the kingdom of shadows to destroy man and rule in his place. But know ye, the masters were mighty in magic, able to lift the veil from the face of the serpent, able to send him back to his place. Came they to man and taught him the secret, the word that only a man can pronounce. Swift then they lifted the veil from the serpent and cast him forth from the place among men. Yet beware, the serpent still liveth in a place that is open at times to the world. Unseen they walk among thee in places where the rites have been said. Again, as time passes onward, shall they take the semblance of men. Is there a way to see the reptilians? Absolutely. Absolutely. The word that only a man can speak. Kininigen. 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 This word is spelled K-I-N-I-N-I-G-E-N, and it is a word, I don't even know that I'm pronouncing it right, but ki is earth. K-I is earth. And Nini, I don't know what Nini is. And then G-E-N, I'm not sure what that is. But I'm sure it's spoken in an ancient tongue. But the frequency, supposedly the reptilians cannot say this word. And when you make a politician or someone in a position of power, in a ruling position, say this word and they can't say it, they used to slay those people. If they could not speak this word, they would kill them. They would execute them. So I thought about putting out t-shirts a long time ago, and I think I'm still going to do it. I want to make some t-shirts that say Kininigen on there, and we need to start making these and just put them out everywhere. Just print Kininigen on a t-shirt, everyone. Don't copyright it, just put it out there. I'm going to come up with some designs. You come up with some designs. Let's get this process going, because we can start really just plastering it everywhere. There's an interesting story. I've always got interesting stories. That's why I always say this. My ex-boyfriend and I used to own the website Kininigen. We bought the website, and we didn't make a website to go with it. We bought the actual, term Kininigen.com. Well, something happened, after a year of having it or so, or 2 years. And my ex-boyfriend said that it was no longer registered to him. And I was like, what do you mean it's not? He's like, somebody took it. Somebody took it from his registry and made it theirs. So they hijacked it. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. get it back. I mean, you had proof that it was yours, and they didn't buy it from you? But he's not a fighter, so I would have pursued it. I would have done something, gone after it, because why would somebody want that? Yeah, I feel like it's important. And when someone steals your website name, there's a reason. And so Kininigen, Kininigen, Kininigen. Now, it may not sound like that. It may be Kininigen or Kininigen or Kininigen or Kinini. I don't know. There's a million different ways to say it, but we can figure it out. But these things, they could not speak this term. Spread the word is all I've got to say. Get that word out there. Let's start putting it everywhere. I think I'll just entitle this whole video Kininigen. So that way we can just get it on out there where it belongs and just let them know that we're waking up and we're coming after them. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy the video. I think we need to begin thinking outside the box with what's going on in our world. I believe that there's truth to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean. It's why I felt compelled to have that book. Once I found that book in 2014, it was bizarre how I was magnetized towards it. And when I read it for the first time, I felt like it was the Cliff's Notes for all of humanity to know, and the importance of it. It almost seemed like it was fictional in the beginning, because it talked about these tablets that cannot be altered in any form. They cannot. There's no way to transmute any of it. There's no way to take a sample of it. You can't burn it with acid. You can't break it. You can't chip it. You can't drill it. You can't do anything. You can't burn it. They're immutable in their form. And that would speak to me because of where I've been, in trying to broaden my perspective of our reality. It would mean that a higher mind created the tablets and made it immutable. And we can do this in the higher planes. But again, the reptilians and controllers of our world, they don't want us to know this about ourselves. And this great awakening is going to reveal these truths to us, that we can actually create absolutely with the ether that's all around us, because that's how it's been done in the past. Minds have created everything around us. It's not just one creator. Look at the world and how it's made. How do we create the world around us? It's not just one entity. It's not one person. It's not one thing. A group. It's a collective. It's a collective consciousness that creates everything. And this is what we have in the higher realms of possibility and consciousness. But the Emerald Tablets are amazing, amazing, amazing book. And I highly recommend that as a reading. That is why I am doing the reading and putting it out on the internet, is so that others can learn what Thoth was trying to teach us about our reality and what we can achieve when we truly try to become greater than ourselves. And that whole reptilian aspect of it, when I came across that, it hit me that what are they doing in the world? What are they doing when they're summoning, when they're doing rituals, performing rituals, any kind of ritual? What are they doing? What does it mean? What does it mean when they spill blood? What does it mean when they eat flesh? We have to rethink our entire reality. Why are we eating flesh? Why do we eat dead flesh? Why were we taught to do this? We are light beings. We eat light. At least right now we do. In the higher realms, we won't need to eat. We won't be consuming anything because we'll be taking care of everything. And we won't want anything because we can make whatever we wish just with our minds. And I believe that this is going to prove some information about Tartaria, some missing pieces that have left people baffled as to how they could create the most ornate and beautiful things of the world. I don't believe we have Roman creators who created all that stuff, like the Sistine Chapel ceiling and the things that they attribute to Michelangelo's work. I don't think it was made by one person. I believe people came together and used their minds to create these things. Now, it may sound like a stretch to most of you out there listening to this, but when you truly study consciousness and going back into the Vedas and what they have to say, go into Vedic texts, look into the ancient worlds that are all around us, and the history that we have that's there teaches you that consciousness creates your reality, and that we are not this physical body, and that we can astral project and we can do amazing things once we learn how to get control of our thoughts. We are magical beings. They don't want us to know this. This is a power that only we possess. And the most powerful thing a being can ever possess is the ability to use its voice to create nearly anything. We have the ability to sound like the birds and all the animals and even the trees, the wind blowing through the trees. We can make all these sounds with our voice. It's the most powerful thing that a being can possess. This came to me in a vision. It's not a vision, but in a meditation. It said that being able to speak is one of the most powerful things any being can possess. What are we doing with it? We're casting spells every time we speak. Get the Emerald Tablets of Thoth if you want to read it continually, or listen to the videos that I put out, or find someone else's videos. Find this message because it's very important. That book also was very strange because I read it 3 times. And the 3rd time I read it, the last tablets appeared. So let me tell you this story really quickly, because this video is going to be really long. And I know you guys don't really like long videos. Most people don't. I do. I love the longest ones. But when I first bought the book, I read it all the way through to the end. And I read it because I was enthralled by the words that were there, that were speaking to me on another level, telling me about the world. And I felt like this resonated deeply within my soul. Well, when you get to the end, at least in 2014, when you got to the end of the book, it stated that the last 2 tablets would not be available until the time that they were needed, because man wasn't ready for them. And I was confused because I was like, where are we going to get this? Where are we going to get this knowledge? There's 2 tablets missing and they're not in the book. Why? Why aren't they in the book? I looked everywhere. I flipped to the pages and, it just said you could order other books by Dorial or other books from the publishing company. And I was like, I was very confused at that time because it stated in the book that those they wouldn't be available until the time that man needed them and could understand them. And I was like, wow, this is weird, Okay. So I read it a second time. And I read it, that was probably in 2015 or 2016 when I read it to the second time. And on the 3rd time I read that book, the last 2 tablets were there. That was 2017 when I read it the 3rd time. And the last 2 tablets were there. And I was floored because I had already been through that book. After the first time, I was like, okay, well, I need to go back and highlight and mark and put notes in the side column and everything. I went back and I marked all the way through that book the second time, all the way to the end where it stopped at the last, I think it was 10 tablets. And when I read all that, I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to go back through, because it says to read the book 100 times. This is Thoth's message. Read this book. Well, he didn't say book, obviously, because it wasn't a book, it's tablets. Read these tablets 100 times in order to gain the wisdom contained within them. And so I read it that third time, and the last 2 tablets were there. Explain it to me. This is what people are talking about when they're talking about the Mandela effect. It happened to me directly. As sure as I am sitting here, this happened to me. And I want to know who else it might have happened to. If you're watching this and you experience the same thing, let me know, because this reality is not what it seems. And someone is controlling the game. But I believe it's higher beings, very, very high beings that have excelled and ascended to higher levels of mastery that can absolutely be the game changers here. This is all a construct for our soul to gain knowledge. And what are we doing right now, in the world? We're lost. All of humanity seems to be lost, chasing its tail, trying to find the answers. Everybody thinks they have the answer. I think I've got the answer. I don't really think that I'm in the answer. I'm not a guru. I'm not a saint. I'm not, a wizard, but I've found some things that have resonated very strongly with my soul. And now that I'm on the path of just following my soul and whatever sort of synchronicity might come my way, because I just flow. I don't try to control anything anymore. I just ride the wave wherever it takes me. Good, bad, ugly. I don't care. I'm just rolling, telling the stars at night, telling my higher self in the morning, before I wake up, when I'm sort of in that lucid state and I'm sort of meditating. I start talking and getting messages and telling it things. And then I meditate more and I focus on certain things. And I gain wisdom and introspection. And this is the things that we need to do, because our inner self is waiting for us to reconnect, whatever it might be. This is supposedly not our true form. We are supposed to be like up in the stars somewhere, being controlled. And this is just a little puppet version of us. And we're just playing a game. But at the same time, we have to play the game well, and we have to learn well. We came here for knowledge, and we came here to impart knowledge on each other, what we've learned, what we found. And, it's all a big school, but what are you learning? What are you teaching? What do you know? Let's share all of the knowledge. Kininigen is a word. It is the word that we need to be plastering on everything. We need to put it on t-shirts. We need to put it on notepads. We need to put it on hats. Whatever. We need a publisher that just puts out Kininigen. Do not copyright this, people, because it needs to be shared with everyone, everywhere. It needs to be blasted across the skies and across the airwaves and across everything, that this is a word that reptilians supposedly cannot say. And when they can't say it, it exposes them for who they truly are. And it's not to play games with people, Put it out and put it on a t-shirt, have it printed. I'm going to look into doing some homemade screen printing shirts of Kininigen. So, that way if people don't want to make something, they can order something from me, or maybe I'll put it up on a website and you can just order it off a website or something and go directly there. Just some of my own designs, because I've had ideas for a long time for this, that it needs to be printed on shirts and then just distributed everywhere, so that, we can get the message out and they will absolutely know what's happening. If a reptilian finds out, they start seeing Kininigen everywhere, they're gonna be like, oh no, what are we doing? We're getting surrounded now. Let's surround them. Let's scare the dickens out of them. Let them know that we're waking up. Now, I've also heard that using telepathy, they can listen to your thoughts. So if you see someone who you may suspect as a reptilian or humanoid, you start saying things to them in your mind. Like this one person described, seeing someone in their office and they would smile just to see what the reptilian would do. They would smile at them, but in their head, they would say, hello, repti, or hello, reptile, and watch the reaction that comes. See if their facial expression changes. We can do these kinds of simple things to expose them. If they can truly know our thoughts, then let's get them. Let's go after them. And then there's the goggles. So I have my designing goggles, and my only thing with them, I feel like there needs to be another component to make them work. And I have them right here. I actually was making a video based on the designing goggles. They are made of glass, the little lenses are glass, but the rest of it is pretty cheap, if you want to ask me. And for $300, these things should have been at least leather or something. But these are the blue ones. And everything's blue. I don't know if you can see that really. Let's see if I can kind of get it up there. They're just supposed to be for looking at auras, being able to see auras. Because I wrote back to the museum and I asked them, I said, has anyone stated that they can possibly see other entities? And they said, well, no, these are just for exploration, of learning how to see auras. This one is a violet. I don't know if you can see that. I'll have to shine a light through it. Let me see if I got my phone. Shine a light through it, and then you can see, maybe. You can see this is a violet color. These actually look really cool in the daytime. I mean, it makes everything so vivid. And I'll put them on right now. Look at this. So weird. Like your white lights become like white lights, like they're red. But everything else is kind of a violet. And even I have some overhead LED shop lights, and they look almost like white lights because they're violet. Fascinating goggles. I'm trying to figure out too how they put the designing in there, because the designing was supposed to be like a liquid that was pressed between two glass plates that were colorized. And these are a different color as well. Let me get my phone and I'll shine that through there. So it comes with 3 different lenses. Oops, sorry. These are a purple, it's just a purple color. And it's just not as red as the violet ones. But I feel like these goggles could do something, possibly with the help of some other material or some sort of electric device. I'm not sure yet, but I can't wait to get those to work, to do something, because I told the people at the museum, I was like, look, if they're not going to give me something, if they're not going to do something that I want to see, then I'll send them back. But because I can see the auric fields, if you just stare at something, you can kind of see like this resonant energy around. It's usually really, really close to objects. And I can kind of see it. I mean, not all the time because I'm not always focused on it, but a lot of times I can if I just look at it, I can usually see like the little outline of things. Anyway, back to the reptilians. We've got to do this. I need more of you to join forces with me in doing your own research out there in the field research, and let's try to discover more things, more ways to be able to see these entities, because they're everywhere and we need to see them. And I believe auric fields could probably work too, but we need something stronger. even FLIR cameras or something, you know, some sort of, the FLIR would work, I think, because of the heat signatures and the yellow spectrum. And I don't know. I don't know how to get these goggles to be in like the red spectrum. You know, I would need some way to change the color of them, and maybe just do some other stuff. If you guys have any experience in this, you know, into seeing into different dimensions, let me know. And I want technological stuff to view them and to reveal them, and then let's go from there. We need those they live glasses. We need to be able to see what's going on in the world, because we've got a takeover. I won't even call it alien. They're not alien. They've been here. They've just been hidden from us. They've been using the energy of Saturn to bring these things in. And I believe what happened was, you know, back in the day, probably during the beginning of the age of Pisces or so, some magicians they probably decided to do some dark magic practice where they would bring in some sort of demons or creatures to summon power. You know, everybody wants power. Who gives a crap? You know, and they want to have power to do this, that, and the other, and they want to rule over everybody in the world. Well, they probably got themselves in some big trouble by summoning these things, and those things have now taken over their bodies, their minds, everything. They've probably been trapping people in the D-Wave computer, which we need to let those people out if they're really trapped there. This is some crazy, crazy stuff, but I'm telling you, it's about to get really much weirder. Once they truly get to the other side of this war, once they truly get to the other side of revealing what the UFO agenda is, they're excited for us to actually be going, like more and more people are going to these UFO conferences. That gives the other higher intelligences that are on our side, the benevolent ones, it gives them hope for us, because we are showing less fear in regards to the UFO phenomena. And eventually, I feel like they're going to step into the spotlight. Once they get enough people becoming less sensitive, you know, it's like a desensitizing type of program that we're in right now with all of the news about the UFOs and the potential aliens. They're not aliens, but they're all here. And it's going to be important for me to put out another video in regards to what I feel this world is truly about. And that's the Norse mythological map of Yggdrasil. And Yggdrasil is a whole nother level of, yeah, there's something there, you know, and we'll go in that in another video. But I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Please send me any information that you might come across, and I hope that you can share this with other people who might listen to the message, because this whole reptilian message is getting bigger. It's not going away. It's gaining ground. I've seen it on more and more platforms. People are talking about this. They're questioning their reality. They're questioning the newscasts in Hollywood and all this. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.